Do you tell people that you're spiritual but not religious? Yeah, what the hell are you talking about? I mean, in practical terms. Let's see, you friended the Dalai Lama on Facebook? Yeah, that's good, because he's like all spiritual and stuff. And you can see God in a sunset. That's adorable. Just ignore him. Oh, and you got your past lives read. Hey, you used to be Cleopatra's handmaiden. What do you know? Or were you High Priest of Atlantis? Yeah. When you decide you don't want anything to do with religion anymore, but you do still want to have a spiritual life, you go through the woo-woo phase. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, you have to do it. It's an inevitable and necessary step in your spiritual evolution. We all do the woo-woo. God knows I did. I tried everything. And there are many, many practitioners of woo-woo out there who are more than happy to take your money. But after a while, all of those occult theatrics start to seem kind of pointless. Now, the ideas I'm going to be presenting you with in this series of videos, they're around, they're in the air. You know, what goes around comes around, karma's a bitch, let go and let God, all these little maxims we say to ourselves. And they do sort of nibble at the edges of spiritual truth, but I think in the air is a really good way to describe it, because most spiritual but not religious people's ideas of spiritual truth are very vague and murky. It's like, oh yeah, ESP, reincarnation, tarot cards, angels, and it's all happening in the universe, and it's really fabulous. Congratulations, you are in tune with the indefinite. Let's see if we can't tidy that up a little. I'm Gregory, and in this series of videos, I'm going to be laying out for you a spiritual system that is practical and rational and will make all kinds of wonderful sense to you. It's a system you can live your life from, and which, more importantly, will give you the power to make your life into anything you want it to be. And I will do all that without resorting to anybody's pre-existing religious anything, and without resorting to ancient anything either. I am seriously over ancient. And when we get farther into things, I'll show you how you can prove to yourself that what I'm telling you is the truth. I'm not going to expect you to just believe anything. Now, if you sign up at your local Christian church, you go in your first day, they say, come on in, here's your Bible. If it's a mosque, they say, come on in, here's your Quran. In a synagogue, here's your Torah. I say, why start with a book? Why not take a step back from that and start from scratch? Start with you and this alleged entity a whole lot of people seem to think is real, and see what you can figure out on your own for real. Now, the obvious advantage to taking this rational and scientific approach to spiritual questions is that when you're done with your work, you don't believe things, you know things. And knowing is so much better than believing. And no, my excellent religious friends out there, believing is not knowing. Believing something really, 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 really hard is not knowing. Believing something for your entire life does not mean it's true. And believing something in your heart has never saved anybody from being completely wrong. And let me be very clear, when it comes to spirituality, I don't believe anything. I either know something or I don't know it. Believing is for chumps. Having faith is for suckers. Now, if you're trying to get away from religion, what you were probably trying to get away from, whether you knew it or not, is dualism. And if you think that's an obscure term, the academics call it Manichaeism. Dualistic religion believes that the universe is split into two opposing factions: light versus dark, good versus evil, heaven versus hell, God versus the devil. God's up there, you're down here. The material world and the spiritual world are separate from each other. To have dealings with the spiritual world, you must withdraw from the material world. And engagement with the material world pulls you away from the spiritual world. Does that sound familiar? Yeah, because like our entire freaking civilization is built on the belief between a war between light and dark. All our politics are about it. All our literature, our fantasy literature, God knows. All of those pseudo-medieval chronicles and sagas and series people are cranking out hand over fist these days, it's always about how evil invades the kingdom, and the prince, or a plucky stable boy, has to retrieve the sword of, the crown of, the scepter of, the jewel of, insert made-up fantasy name here, to restore the balance of good and evil in the kingdom. The balance of good and evil. Like evil automatically gets a place at the table because, I don't know, because you can't get rid of it, or evil has a contribution to make. I suppose it's for the best. I mean, you wouldn't want life to get too good, because, you know, that'd be... Actually, that'd be kind of fabulous. I'd like to see a world that was too good. But always this idea that evil's gonna be there. All of our great Western religions are built on the idea of a war between light and dark. God knows Christianity is, and that's wrong. Christianity has it all wrong. Yes, I did just say that. Deal with it. That war isn't going on in the world, and it isn't going on inside you. Yes, this belief in light versus dark affects you as an individual. Haven't you been told that there are two sides to you? The good, virtuous, noble side, and the greedy, slutty, murderous side, locked in eternal combat for possession of your soul? Robert Louis Stevenson made that idea into a literary classic with his Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Dr. Jekyll drinks his potion, releasing the beast within, and horror ensues. You think it matters that he wrote that whole thing on a 6-day cocaine binge? Let's think. There's not two sides to you. There's just you. The hot mess that is you. And me. Now, this belief that the spiritual world and the material world are separate from each other drastically affects how we treat the planet we live on. I was watching a Christian cable television one afternoon because, you know, I like to laugh as much as everybody else, and the subject was environmentalism, which was, of course, being presented as this dire plot by liberals and homosexuals to herd Christians into concentration camps. I don't know. Anyway, they solicited input from the audience, and this guy stands up, and he said that as a devout Christian, he felt that he had a sacred duty to take care of this world, that this world was a gift from God, and that as a Christian, he had a responsibility to take proper care of that gift. Well, this other guy gets up on the other side of the audience and says what the first guy said was totally unbiblical and anti-Christian. And people started choosing up sides, and it turned into a real smackdown. Wow. Now, I know there are many good people who are Christian who are environmentalists. Our new Pope, Francis, is an environmentalist. He was just haranguing our Congress about it a while back. But the fact that there is an opposing faction within their faith just blows my mind. How out of touch with reality do you have to get to think you don't need to take care of the air you breathe, the water you drink, or the soil you plant in? And look what our Judeo-Christian culture has done to this world. Poisoned air, poisoned water, dead soil, mass extinctions, deforestation. And now we're about to set in motion a cascading global warming effect whose full results will only be known after they've happened. Now that is dualism. And you have Christianity to thank for a great deal of that destruction. Okay, so now you're thinking, okay, old sarcastic guy, we get it, dualism bad. You got something better? Yeah, I got something a lot better, and you're going to love it. What's better than dualism is obviously the opposite of dualism. Now I'm going to close today by giving you an idea. I just want you to think about it. I don't expect you to believe me. I don't like gullible people, and like I said, I don't believe anything. But here's something I know. Everything is made of God. Everything is composed of the substance of God. The universe is made of God plus nothing else. Now I want you to give that some thought. Think what it would mean if it was true. Think how it would affect the way you relate to other people, to the circumstances in your life, to life in general, if you understood that it was all one infinite thing joyfully interacting with itself. Now, some of you may have had really, really horrible experiences with religion, and you just bristle when you hear the word God. It's become a poisoned word for you. I understand. Believe me, I understand. So just call it something else. I call it all kinds of other things. I call it the infinite, spirit with a capital S, infinite substance with a capital S. You can call it the universe, if by the universe you mean more than just this material universe that we all bang around in every day. In fact, that's your first lesson in spiritual truth. God doesn't care what you call it. You can call it the Virgin Mary, you can call it Ganesh, you can call it Saint Bosco of the Two Pillars of the Sea. It doesn't care what you call it. And yes, there actually is a Christian saint named Saint Bosco of the Two Pillars of the Sea. Long story. So when I say God, because I do also call it God a lot, I think God is a very good word for it, but when you hear that word, just transpose it in your mind to some other term. Or alternatively, you could just get the fuck over it. But hey, free universe, bristle if that's what works for you. I'm not going to try and stop you. So give that idea some thought. We'll talk again. I want to give you a way to be spiritual but not religious that matters, that impacts positively on your life, that you can be proud of, that isn't trivial and silly, that doesn't make people roll their eyes behind your back, and that you can defend proudly when some snarky Christian tells you you're a narcissist, because if you haven't had that conversation yet, it is coming, I guarantee it. So, anyway, think it over. And then if you like what you're seeing, click the subscribe button down below. Makes me happy to see the numbers go up. And we'll talk again. I'm gonna save you from the woo-woo. So many people have told me they used to be Cleopatra's handmaiden. Her domestic staff must have been enormous.